Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Deciphering My Experience. My name is Eric, and I am joined today by Ileana and Penny Bradley. And today we are celebrating the 1 year anniversary of Deciphering My Experience coming out on YouTube. And many people may not know this, but these two wonderful women here were the first ones to give me an opportunity to have my voice aired publicly. So I thought that it was very fitting to have them on today. And let's just, go over what's been going on in that last year and see maybe what we've learned in our own experiences and see if we can maybe pull them together for ourselves and the audience in general for growth. So today I want to welcome Ileana and Penny. Ileana, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good. Great. Thank you, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Could you maybe give your background if we have some new listeners today to just let us know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I started off as being a ET experiencer and an SSP experiencer. So I had been abducted by various reptilians when I was 2 to 10 from those ages in Russia and then in Canada. And then at the age of 29, I started remembering more than just those abductions. So I started remembering the SSP stuff and that I'd been in planetary corporations and served a 60 and back with the quantum leap time travel. That I had served on Mars on the 11 bases on as well as the space platforms that they have, 4 of them. So those are my memories. Basically, I'm also an energy healer, a psychic, and a spiritual teacher. So I do energy healing sessions, I do psychic reading sessions, I do galactic soul reading sessions. I do other things, DNA infusions. I do consultations. I do medical intuitive readings as well. So I do a lot of different things on my website, Messages from a Star Traveler. So people can find me that way. And I'm also a YouTube content creator. So I've shared a lot of my ET experiences and SSP experiences on my show. And I've interviewed people on my show, Awakening Cosmic Reality Show. So I do a lot of things to get the word out, to get disclosure out as best as I can. And I've interviewed you and Penny. You're part of my team, my crew. So I consider you good friends.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for catching everybody up to speed on that one. And I agree. And I again, thank you for helping me to have my voice here because it really mattered at a time where I was thoroughly confused with what direction to go. So thank you for joining me here today, Ileana and Penny. If you could refresh the folks out there as to who you are and why we're communicating today.
My name is Penny Bradley, and I was the first public person from the officer class of the German fleet in space that calls itself Nacht, Waffen. I've done a lot of interviews. I got my own radio show on Global Enlightenment Radio Network last August. So we're talking in late February now. So I've been on radio for a whole 6 months. I have a TV show on Roku. It's on the Fringe TV streaming service. I'm finding I'm having a hard time actually doing that because I have to talk to myself. There's something about looking at yourself on the screen that's a little intimidating for me. I had a podcast on my YouTube at the time that I was interviewing Eric and introducing him to the world. And I was really honored when he asked to be on.
Awesome. I'm glad that you accepted that and that we were able to converse, because I mean things have changed a lot in 1 year really fast as far as I'm concerned. It's a whole new world. Things have gotten wild. So
Well, Ileana and I have been friends for 4 years now, I think.
Yeah, we both are part of SSP groups that you and I both admin together. And we really, no matter what has come up in front of us, we've remained best friends, and we shall remain best friends because nobody comes between us.
That's how I feel about it too. Even though our factions are sometimes at war with each other in space, we're here, and what we share together is more important than the bullshit.
I can attest to that too. I've seen you both as pillars in the community, because I've shown up as a newbie, so to say, and have been, you know, there's turmoil, there's you know, stuff that happens, and there's folks that have been in this mix longer than I, where things don't necessarily work out smoothly sometimes, and both of you have gone to bat for me personally when things have gotten weird and peculiar, and other folks had, I guess you would say, gotten out of the line or stepped out of bounds, and both of you, I would say, thank you for what I would say was doing the right thing at the time and putting other folks in check when they stepped out of line. You know, so your actions, I would say, were appropriate and appreciated.
Our community has several issues going that the community, the public at large, are generally unaware of. Now, I'm going to try to put these in polite terms, so don't think I'm picking at anyone. This is my evaluation of the situation. We were all heavily damaged as children. Most of us have alters. Most of us have programming to not disclose. Some of us have suicide programming if we do. So when we start talking about these things and our programming comes up and we're interacting with others with similar programs, like I mentioned in space, Ileana and I are in different factions where our factions are at war with each other. So they've put programming into us that we're not supposed to get along. So when you put all these people into a group together and each individual is damaged to begin with, and I know for certain I am, and they've got this programming that mine is the only way. And then we start talking to each other and find out, well, gee, there's at least 6 other factions out there, and at least 2 of them are usually at war with each other. You know, so of course we're going to have different stories to tell. That doesn't mean I'm right and she's wrong. It just means we're looking at the same thing from different directions.
And at one point, I had been in Nacht, Waffen as well. And I remember Penny in that white uniform, the dress uniform.
That thing is impossible to keep clean.
Yeah, exactly. So I have memories of Penny, but they're vague because the Nacht, Waffen one was brief. That service was very brief, but I remember the cigar-shaped craft that Penny and I were on. I think I might have done something with Penny missions because she'd been a pilot, and I was kind of more like testing these ships to make sure that I could connect with them through the Neurolink implants and that they're flyable, that you can connect to them remotely with psionics and fly them if you have to without crew. Or if something happens to the crew, that you can navigate it and get it to where it needs to go. If something happens to the crew, somebody remotely can tap in with their Neuralink implants and pilot it and retrieve it and get it back home. So that's what I remember mostly doing in Nachtwaffen. And I remember speaking Spanish. There was Nachtwaffen Rigueur attached to that title. So it's quite interesting. And Penny remembers Mars, and Penny remembers destroying one of the cybernetics labs. That's how I got to know Penny first.
That was Earth Alter Penny popped into that altar who was on a mission, and I was there and freaked out and released the psi panic, which blows things up. This is one of the serious issues with when we start waking up here. Our altars are affected, and that can affect everything that we have an altar in. So it's a real security issue for the agencies involved that I'm reintegrating altars. And people need to understand some of these stories I tell. I'm freaking out, but there's somebody out in space who's having to pay the consequences for what I've done.
I don't remember any altars. I usually remember just being myself, like continuously, constantly just being me, no different names, just me, always. So I don't know if I've ever had altars or if I didn't. I just remember me constantly, and there's no altar surfacing. The memories that I have, the recalls of the SSP, it's always me as one person. Sometimes I've been in cyborg bodies, yes. And I've been in out-of-body experiences as well. And I've also dealt with people in the SSP group who I've helped to figure out what the heck was happening to them, because I've done memory regressions and hypnosis for folks just to figure out what the heck they're remembering. So it's quite interesting.
Been able to help people recover their memories so much as what I found is if they talk long enough, they recover them on their own. If they sit there quietly mulling it over, they don't get the memory back.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they're typing, their mind thinks they're talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend too many hours a day listening to people while they recover their own memories. But the good news is the way I go about it, they know it's their memory and not something I fed them.
Yeah, same in hypnosis. We have a set of questions that they and I come up with, and I ask them the questions in the hypnosis and they start talking. And we look at the memories to make sure they're theirs and that they're not fake memories or trigger memories to close off the real ones, because sometimes there's memories that are inserts, so they're not theirs, they're not real, or they seem like it is, but it's not, so we go past them. Or there's booby traps where they get anxious, they get scared or sick during the hypnosis session. And then I have to work through the trigger of that booby trap to energetically remove it to get them talking about their real memories of what they're exploring in hypnosis.
I'm glad you brought up about going through and finding the trigger and removing it, because a lot of hypnotists don't do that. And a lot of hypnotists also don't understand that, well, I call them cover memories. Some of those cover memories are inserted before we're sent back, so that should we remember, we'll get the cover memory instead of the truth. And when I'm doing my own, I ask my subconscious to show me what really happened. And then I can actually visually see a curtain opening up, and then I can see another storyline, and it's often very different.
Yeah. I want to jump in here because it's kind of on par for a question that I have here on my list. So like you're dealing with folks, let's say over the course of the last year, right? Let's just for this hypothetical. What have you two learned in the process of communicating with folks in the truth movement in the last year that you find really cool, most impressive, something that you just like a wow effect through dealing with folks that you've learned in the last year, maybe? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Everybody is unique. They have their own story. They have their own expectations of things. So
Mhm.
to really, when I deal with people, I deal with anyone, truth movement, I treat them as a person, as the unique individual with the story that they come with, and
Mhm.
try to see what's behind the story to get to the deep, deep stuff. And again, to make them feel safe, comfortable, to talk to me, to do sessions, to do whatever. And privacy and confidentiality is
Right.
key because they're people. They're living, breathing people who deserve our respect.
For sure.
They might have trauma, they might have physical issues. They come for healing, they come for to get answers, or they just want to talk and get perspective and to just speak with you as a person
Mhm.
and to treat them as a person. So you treat them with the utmost respect and you listen to their story because it's unique and it's individual and it comes from somewhere.
But in
So,
that process of doing that, I mean, you're right. I would never argue everything that you just said. That's a great environment to promote an interaction.
mhm.
I'm not asking you to out anyone that is looking for their information to remain private. That's a given. But of the information, I mean, I'm not looking for names or anything like that, but is there just anything that, you've learned in the last year through these types of conversations where you're like, wow, that's new information to me?
Yeah, a lot of people have been abducted by greys, reptilians, and they've had a lot of abductions, either these beings coming to them in their home or picking them up, taking them somewhere. And it's always without permission. It's not consensual most of the time. So you really don't know what you're signing up for
Mhm.
and what you're agreeing to. So there seems to be a lot of ETs involved behind the scenes, even with these programs, the SSP, the
Okay.
MyLabs, there's always ETs involved behind closed doors.
Mhm.
So that's kind of been the pattern of what I've learned. It's
Mhm.
not just human SSP that's taking people, it's ETs, and ETs work with these programs
Mhm.
in underground dumb spaces, in space. It's huge. This is a vast thing that happens
Mhm.
to experiencers. So it's not just SSB, it's also ET involvement, and it's consistent.
How about you, Penny? Anything that you can think of jumping to the forefront of your mind in the last year or so that you would say in the truth movement that you've learned that you were impressed by or as a new thought?
Well, most of what she said, I had already figured that out because I'd been doing counseling for so long. Um, I was a twin flame counselor before I was SSP, and I thought I had heard it all then. But the thing that has most impressed me in the last year has been the monetization of our community. Now, I understand that jobs have gotten tight and people are home with time on their hands and nothing much to do. So they're deciding to monetize disclosure. And I can understand that to a large perspective. Um, I'm probably one of only a handful that have not actually monetized much. And I'm finding that I'm going to have to keep going. And so yeah, I'm learning it, but at the same time it saddens me that what had been a community of people sharing their experiences uh, freely and frequently and openly is now becoming, well, you have to pay for that.
Well,
And
that,
I find that really disturbing.
Without naming names that both of you know, we know what sowed that seed in our community. This idea that you can have a right to an idea and a dollar amount to that idea was unfortunately inculcated, and I would say was probably some sort of a COINTEL psyop to begin with as well.
Yeah, I actually remember that individual being entrained in a program. Now, this is so difficult. I didn't even want to speak about this, but we're talking about entrainment and control, right? So there's a program in the SSP. It's an elite program called the Shadow Guard. And what they do is MK Ultra brainwashing of SSP assets. When we're first taken into these programs, we're given to the Shadow Guard. It doesn't matter which program you're about to put in, which faction, you're given to the Shadow Guard. So they mentally break you, the mind brainwashing, MK Ultra, and the physical torturing of you. Mental and physical breakdown. This is what they make of assets: perverts, deviants, and machine killers. And you can fall into any of those categories or all of the above. And some of us can control this programming, dismantle it and take it down, and not act on our urges of doing deviancy, doing bad things. But some people can't break away from the programming like that individual. So they're still being perverted and deviated by that so-called MK Ultra programming that's running as a program in their brain, making them do hideous things in public. They're specifically sent to break down all these communities, to create dissension, to create chaos and havoc. It's like a cosmic troublemaker sent back on Earth after their mission, after their service. They're not left alone. They're agents sent to create this massive chaotic chaos amongst us and to divide and conquer, literally. They don't even understand their programming unless they want to understand and stop this deviancy. We all have some urges to do something inappropriate. I've battled that, but I've decided as an energy healer to take charge of my life and to dismantle this horrid programming, not to do this as what the other example was of what that person did, to never follow in those footsteps because I was involved with that person. And I personally saw the behavior, and that's triggered the Shadow Guard memories. And it's hideous memories. I can't even go look at them because they're hideous. There's too much blood, torture, beating of people, breaking bodies, body parts, and breaking people's minds. So I think we've all been put into that kind of torture, physical, emotional torture in these programs to make us stand in line to follow orders and to do what these programs put us in to do as jobs.
Well, I had that at Langley starting when I was 4. And when I was 9, they figured I'd had enough and sent me to Mars to the Germans. I don't remember it being redone with any callback. But if I were going to fall into one of those 3 categories, I do fall into a machine-like no feeling really easily. When I'm ill, I have physical issues from my service, and I have physical issues from my life on Earth, actual injuries that I've had to have surgery for, or will have to have surgery for in the near future. And I've recently, like even this morning, got told that I was a hypochondriac, that if I wanted to be healed, that I could do it, and that I just don't want to, that I like being sick. This is also part of our community. I've been calling it in recent days that we eat our own. I've been seeing a real tendency for, especially those who have been in the community since its inception, and those who came over from the super soldier community, which really is part of us.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a longer history of eating their own. There's like an attitude that the men all have to be military, that the women all have to be healers, that all of us have to be in our 30s or younger, that all of us have to be healthy, that we all have to make sense when we talk, that we always have to be in a good mood, that we're not, you look at these attitudes, and from a modern legal standpoint, we're sexist, we're ageist, we're racist, we're ableist. These are all things that are becoming illegal and looked at, frowned upon in the main culture. So why is our community kind of nurturing them?
Because they want to frown upon people that are observant.
Yeah. and I guess from my perspective of the Shadow Guard, because I remember being in the Shadow Guard and being trained as a dominatrix with sexual prowess and deviancy and just whipping men and just getting them addicted to sex. That's what I remember doing in the Shadow Guard. So I consider that sexual deviancy, perhaps. I mean, here on Earth.
Control mechanisms.
Yeah, control mechanisms called BDSM. But even in that, it's all done with permission. In the Shadow Guard, it was done without permission, like sexual deviancy. So my energy is really male. Even though I'm female, I was trained as a dominatrix with a lot of male energy, being in a female body, to dominate sexually, to take control over situations. So that's honestly me talking about things I don't want to talk about. So I try my best on Earth not to be a dominatrix and not to be interested in BDSM, not to participate in that, because those are triggers from Mars, what I did in the Shadow Guard and how I trained others into that. So that's kind of my thing that I don't want to be doing here on Earth, following those urges and those triggers. So I avoid those types of situations or triggers where I could be triggered into that here. I just avoid it altogether because it's painful.
Perfect parlay into my next question. What might you two ladies say contemporarily you both see as the biggest obstacles to the overall truth movement? I mean, I get that there's factions and that they're warring and there's problems inherently, but with that being said, with all of that going on, what do you two see as some of the biggest obstacles from your perspective to everyone knowing everything?
Well, they ask for evidence and they ask for proof, and nobody ever believes us that we're telling the truth when we tell our experiences and share our memories. The biggest obstacle is, where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Where's your pictures? Where's your ID? You have to have proof that these factions in the SSP exist. The thing is, unfortunately, we get mind wiped. Everything is erased. Everything is taken away with us. We cannot bring anything with us when we are taken into these programs, and we cannot take anything away with us when they release us back on Earth from these programs. It's a catch and release program. You cannot take anything with you when you go there, and you cannot bring back anything when you come from there. It's a catch and release program of human beings. You're stripped of all your human rights. When you serve in these programs, you're told what to do, you do it. You misbehave, you're punished. And these punishments are not pretty. So honestly, like Penny said, many of us are damaged and broken physically, emotionally. We have health issues. So when people say, we don't believe you, we want proof, you you haven't earned our trust. Well, trust is earned by those people who don't believe us. Trust is earned.
My health issues are actually quite consistent with my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
For people who are paying attention, I have altars. I shift on an ongoing and regular basis. Annoyingly, I mean, I spent a week at your house, Eric, with Lou. You had Lou and I stay with you. That was probably the most annoying thing about me, was that I would be going along talking and suddenly you'd be talking to somebody else and I had no memory of the prior conversation.
It happens.
That is my ongoing regular experience. This is how I live my life. In 30-minute to usually I can go 4 or 5 hours in an altar, but then I'll be gone mentally for 2-3 hours and have absolutely no memory of what happened. And that only happens to people who have been through trauma before the age of 7. So that is part of my truth. That is part of my evidence, because I have these altars. That proves I was traumatized before the age of 7. I have an MRI that shows that there's almost an inch between my 2 hemispheres of my brain and that the 3rd ventricle is enlarged. Well, gee, this is exactly what happened to astronauts that were put through centrifuge training for going into space to see how many G's they could handle. This is also the technology that's used to prevent altar reintegration. So I have medical proof that I have been through something that is consistent with what the technology says they do. I have altars with weird programming that's very consistent with both what I say these altars were used for and with declassified CIA documents from the 1950s and 60s, which, gee, that was the time period when they were working on me. So
I feel like if you're trying to deal with folks that ask that question, all of the things that you said technically still won't matter at all.
No,
it doesn't.
It doesn't, because the type of person that'll ask that question, right? They say that they need proofs. They don't really need proofs. They just have confusion in their head. And it's like you're presenting them this new paradigm, and they're presenting their cognitive dissonance to you. And I almost feel like it's a matrix response, right? You're presenting them this new information that goes against their paradigm, and they turn to you and go, "You have to show me proof." No, you don't. Just because they postulate that logic doesn't actually mean that you have to follow up with that. Your testimony is your testimony. And in a court of law, when they ask you for your testimony, they only ask you for your testimony. They don't actually necessarily ask you for anything more than that. If you have it, that's fantastic. But your testimony is of value in and of itself.
yeah.
What we have going is we have a group of people out there who are making a living making fun of us.
It's ridiculous because they're taking great liberties.
They really do. They're
taking great liberties because when it would be like somebody saying to me, like, "Eric, tell me the best birthday cake that you ever had," and I'd be like, "Oh, well, on my 11th birthday, there was this chocolate cake that it was amazing, and the frosting and the sprinkles was so good." And then if someone turned to me and said, "Oh yeah, prove it," I can't.
Okay, we have
my testimony still remains.
Unless you do pictures, they want pictures and proof and video.
It doesn't change anything, though.
If you give them the pictures, they tell you it's been photoshopped.
The cake was still awesome.
Yeah, Photoshop too. Yeah, the cake was awesome.
Right. The cake was still awesome.
I'm going to tell you what's really going on. We have a group of at least 10 individuals on YouTube who are literally monetized, who have millions of followers, and who are making a living making fun of us.
Gatekeepers. Gatekeepers.
These are worse than gatekeepers. These are disinfo people. These are parasites. Okay, we're talking about people who are already damaged, who have already been through hell, and these are parasites making a living off of making fun of people who are damaged. Now,
They're paid. Like
this
you said,
used to
they're
be
getting money for their position. They're getting
exactly,
support for
but
their position.
you
How does the algorithm all of a sudden support their video?
You have millions of people who come in, listen to 20 minutes of it, and think they can discredit us by asking for proof.
Mm-hmm.
Or in my case, because I served with the Germans, they make me out to be a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not.
So,
okay, truth of the matter, I'm a Republican.
I'm a conservative.
Well, hold on a second. Contemporarily, there's a lot of people that would say that you're conservative makes you a Nazi.
I'm actually of the category that believes that political parties are designed to get us fighting each other and distracted from what's really going on.
The first thing we should do is ban political parties, and then we'll be moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
ban the political parties and then put all of the politicians under strict transparency, where we know every cent that they get from every source and who they are actually paying back.
Yeah,
and it's sure not us.
We can fix all of these problems if there was interested parties. I could be the president of the United States and fix everything in 4 years if I was allowed to, but I'm never going to be allowed to because we understand the way that these systems work. And heaven forbid a normal human being just wanted to get into a position to help all human beings. We can't let that happen.
No.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a researcher. I come from logic. Proof of concept, like that's my training. That's my library background training. Proof of concept. Whatever you do, prove it with research, back it up, because in the library world and academia, universities, you have to back up your thesis when you write one, or when you write research papers, you have to back it up. So what I remember going back 2015, Neurolink implants. 4 of them implanted in my brain, left side of my brain. When they malfunctioned, there was a sudden brain scarring, a white matter lesion in the left side of my brain. It's on the MRI scans. I got hideous headaches beyond what I genetically get. It malfunctioned. I had to get psychic surgery to remove these things because they're etheric Neurolink implants, nanotech. It's not something you can surgically remove with earth stuff. Had to be psychic surgery. So guess what? Now, proof. That's my proof. Neuralink implants being created by the Neuralink company run by Elon Musk. I've been talking about neuro. They're spelled neuro, not neura. I've been talking about that since 2015, 16, 17, before Neuralink went public. Neuralink implants. I've created drawings. I've said where it was in my head, that it's psionically synthetic telepathy. Psionically allows you to talk to other people who have these implants, to remotely control ships, to pilot ships, to interact with technology. It's nanotech Neuralink implants.
Didn't I talk about from my very first interview with Jay Campbell that I had a chip behind my left ear that was about the size of a Bluetooth, and it connected me to the ship's computer where I was the pilot, and that it functioned basically the same way as in the movie Firefox with Clint Eastwood. He used a helmet, I had a chip. Same idea. That's exactly the same position that Elon Musk is putting his chip for his Neuralink implant.
Yeah, but I was the first to use the term Neuralink since 2015, 16, 17, before that company even went public. And people are always asking me, explain how the Neuralink implants work. And I can explain how they do work and where it's placed in the brain. It could be placed in the brain. It could be placed anywhere in the body. to do different functions, to differently augment you. My implants were designed for synthetic telepathy, to download and upload information so I could do jobs like job training in 5 minutes or less, where you don't have to be physically trained by a person to do something. You're just you're downloaded the info into your brain. And these Neurolink implants, there's this micro gold fiber nanotech that connects to the neurons and the axons of your brain. So it creates a neuronal web connection everywhere in your brain. So it's a supercomputer, and it trains you to do jobs. It trains you to interact with tech, with other people psionically. So these things can do a lot. Or people could be augmented with nanotech for agility, for strength, for better brain comprehension. There's so many things that these implants do.
Yep.
Penny, what did your microchip do? What did it allow you to do?
It shipped me directly into the ship's computer. And anything that I needed to do for my position, which as a pilot on a fighter ship, it was tactical. It was anything I needed to pilot a ship in atmosphere or in space, gave me three-dimensional 360 view of what was outside the ship. And if I was landed, it kept track of me. And example, when the Mars spiders ate me, the chip would call home to the ship, which called home to the main computer at the base I was stationed at, and they would send out a rescue team to put me in regen. It also gave me a readout on any personnel that I saw. It would tell me which faction they were with and what their personal abilities were and what language they spoke and whether or not they were chipped into a electronic telepathic situation. In other words, did I have to use my mouth or could I just talk, telepathically? And it also included the ETs that were affiliated with the base, what race they were. And my faction included the information on how best to kill them if I had to.
Yep, my Neurolink implants also could tap into the Mars bases, databases, mainframes, satellites, different ships to pilot ships remotely. I could telepathically communicate with my fellow workers who worked in the cybernetics labs. If they had the implants, I could just talk to them telepathically instead of opening my mouth and speaking. I actually preferred telepathy.
One of the things that people need to understand is that I got out of Shula and was in a ship by 1975. And you were operating, your first year on Mars was?
I think it was 2000 something.
So we're talking about at least 2 generations of technology. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about being the same place at the same time, although there might have been some overlap. But these are basically different factions in the same region at this, and even in different time spans. Because I am 65 years old, I was in an earlier version of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's important for people to know. It's like we're talking the equivalent of I was in Nam and you were in Iraq. Okay, that, this is important to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the tech does the same things. There might be a time gap but the tech still does the same things. Even maybe the tech is better, but it still does the same old thing. We both describe similar things of what it does. It still does the same stuff to this day on the Mars bases and the SSP factions. People are augmented.
That's because the basic human being is still unable to do telepathy on its own. It's unable to link to a computer on its own, and it takes it too long to learn things on its own. So they want a speeded up version, so they plug you in.
And Elon Musk wants to plug us into the cloud, to the computer matrix, to Google, to these Neurolink implants. So it's like the transhumanism movement is alive and well. It was part of the 40, 50-year plan from Earth, from what I remember, Planetary Corp wanting to pass this tech on to us. And now it's here. It was always part of the plan, and it's here. Like, personally, I'm not going to get a Neuralink implant from Elon Musk. I don't trust those things. They're not safe. I wouldn't get it implanted.
I have telepathy here when I want it without electronics. So I'm trying to stay as close to DNA human as I can pull off.
Same. I have telepathy always. I have psychic ability always open. It never really closes off. And I have some control over it to close it and to open it whenever I want. And it's because of what the ability gave me with having Neuralink implants until 2017, but they malfunctioned. And I willingly got rid of them because I didn't want my poor brain to explode or be more inflamed. Would I rather be alive? Or would I rather be suffering and half dead with these implants in my brain? Gee, what would I choose? I'd rather be alive and just rely on my own natural psychic ability to be what I can be organically and as close to human DNA as I possibly can. And sometimes I diverge and get more involved with my ET DNA and not be human so much. I do diverge and go between the two because I'm not fully human, and I admit it.
Well, I was modified by the CIA before I was born, so I didn't have a choice in that one either. And if you're listening to this on YouTube and you think I did, keep your opinion to yourself, please.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't modified by anyone.
I've had way too much negative feedback lately. You don't like me, keep it to yourself.
It's yeah, I mean, I was born half ET, half human. So I was born a hybrid, ET human hybrid, just born that way. And I fully embrace my genetics. Every part of what I am, I embrace. I don't hide it. I don't suppress it. I just use my natural abilities. And I've taken a lot of training to improve on my natural psychic abilities. I've studied Wicca magic, I've studied shamanism, I've studied crystal healing, I've studied psychic development. What haven't I studied? I studied the Akashics, how to do that. I've studied everything that I'm interested in the esoterics, tarot, everything I could get my fingers on, I have, because it helps me with my ability. Just helps me to be a better psychic and a healer. Just
well,
naturally.
I have specialized in shielding, because there are so many people out there with abilities who do not understand free will consent. And they come in and stomp around in my head and try to impose their will on me. And I'm done. I'd rather they just stayed out.
Well, that's called psychic rape, psychic manipulation, and unlawful psychic entry. In the circle of where I work as a psychic, those are the terms we use. Psychic mind rape, when somebody comes to pilfer your brain without your permission psychically, they enter and start going around in your brain. That's psychic mind rape or mind manipulation. Unlawful psychic invasion of one's mind. and unlawful entry without permission.
Hmm.
That,
And so I have up, the last time I counted, I think it was 7 layers of shielding to keep people out. And most of them are mirrored. So they get to a certain point and they think they've made it all the way through and they only see themselves. So if you're looking at me and you think you're seeing a monster, you're looking in a mirror. So you almost broke a smile.
well, if you're seeing a monster, that's something you can psychically project for the people to see. If you want to project a monster psychically, that's what people will physically and energetically see.
I don't want to do that. It's just I keep being told a bunch of shit. That's the honest truth. They tell me stuff that could not possibly all of it be true, and I'm looking at it and going, keep your opinions to yourself. I'm tired of hearing. Eric, have you gotten that kind of feedback yet?
Absolutely. I'm learning. There's a term that I've learned in the last year. It's called a Heyoka empath, and I'm being taught that I'm probably a Heyoka empath, which has to do with like what you're saying with this mirror effect. And I have a tendency to give back to people tenfold what they're giving to me, and they find that challenging. I get that. It's not a problem for me, because it's like if somebody's giving me love, I give them love back tenfold. If somebody's giving me a hard time, I give them a hard time back tenfold. It's not a problem for me at all. I can understand how that's taxing for the other party, and that I have to learn my strengths, because I'm not looking to give people a hard time, so to say, but I have to understand my own personal characteristics and how I might impact other people. I am who I am. They are who they are. But I have to learn to keep myself in check a little bit, because I understand not everybody's looking to look in the mirror constantly. And I have that capacity to because it protects me. I mean, yes,
yeah, it does.
As children, we've learned our own things. We've been traumatized as children, and we have defense mechanisms. And I have a strong one in that Heyoka empath mirror. By allowing people to just look right back at themselves, whatever they throw at me, I give back to them tenfold. Enjoy. Here's a taste of yourself. I totally get that.
Or the keto effect,
Well,
where you mirror back what you want mirrored back, and not receive from the other person what they're throwing back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
with that being said, this is an interesting, like, almost point of confusion for everyone, right? So I wonder, I have here on my list of questions, words of advice to folks with SSP thoughts. Myself personally, I feel like a lot of us have gone through the ringer. Some of us have recollections. Most of us don't. But there's that point where someone goes from having no idea or no recollection to where they start watching videos or whatever their avenue is for learning, where all of a sudden they go, oh, I might need to look into this more, because I think I now have something worth considering. What would your advice be to those people at that moment, how they should consider moving forward from your experience?
Just sit with yourself for a while and consider, is this worth exploring? Are these memories something that I really need? Do I want them back? Are they traumatic? Are they good? Are they bad? Just really understand what your memories are before opening Pandora's box, because it is a Pandora's box. I chose to open it because I was already feeling sick, and I just didn't understand what was coming back from my head, my memories, and I just wanted to understand and heal. That's why I did self-hypnosis. That's why I uncovered like 85% of my memories, then 90. And now the shadow guard stuff, I understand if I don't talk about it, it's just going to fester. If I don't disclose it, it's going to fester. I promised myself I wouldn't discuss it, but I did today, because honestly, I don't need to keep that. I don't need to dwell on it. It's not mine anymore. It's released. So not to fester, not to dwell on it, and to really see how worth it is it for you to really know who you are and what you've done. Is it worth it or not for you before you go looking for all of it? Honestly.
What about you, Penny? What do you think? What advice would you give to folks that are just having their crack in their dam moment?
My memories were activated for me without asking my opinion or consent. So in a lot of ways, my remembering was a rape process. So I tend to be on the side of, do you want to know? I personally stress the free will aspect of it because my free will was taken.
Mhm.
And so if someone comes to me and there's something they don't want to talk about, I honor that. If someone comes to me and there's something that's all they want to talk about, I honor that. If it's something that is triggering to me, I will tell them they need to find somebody else to talk to about it.
So if we follow this hypothetical in as so far as that this supposed person is someone who is looking to know more, but they're at this green hand position in the task, what are best first steps, I guess, from your perspectives, from being veterans in this community, for a inquisitive mind who does want to find out, who has decided, I need to know more? What are the directions that you would suggest that they go to?
Well,
It depends on if they have the money or not, because if they don't have the money, then what they need to do is sit and just keep talking until they have a clear idea in their minds, or to do the timeline like Tony Rodriguez talks about, where they plot each memory in a timeline and journal it. That's another way to talk. If they have the money, I would recommend regression hypnosis with someone who can remove triggers and remove omega programming and does not change your original memories. I have had counseling clients who have had hypnosis abuse. People who thought they were doing them a favor by changing the original memory. If you ever want to do the shadow work and reintegrate that part of yourself, you have to have the original memory, even if it's negative. If you want to process the actual memory, it has to still be there. And if you are constantly going to be suicidal after recovering a memory, that's not a healthy way to live either. When they forced me to remember, they left the omega programming. So I had to have help. One entire regression hypnosis I had, the hypnotist is now dead. He died in January. But one entire hypnosis session I had was simply dealing with omega programming. Now, most people charge between $400 and $800 a session for this. So you might find someone less. And to be honest, what they charge has nothing to do with their ability level, because you can find people that are doing this for free, and they're better than the ones that want 800. Now, I'm, you need to do your homework. Find out who's doing it, for how much money, and what their former clientele has to say about them.
or what their credentials are, for
Buyer
that matter.
beware.
Well,
Yeah, so you're trusting your entire psyche to this person. Don't get a fly-by-night.
well, I could also speak because I do SSP hypnosis regression. So I could speak from a practitioner's point of view and how I started. Nobody regressed me. I regressed myself with self-hypnosis. I learned from my shaman teacher hypnosis, portions of standard hypnosis and shamanic hypnosis, and I blended both together, but I regressed myself by myself. Nobody regressed me. I did it on my own. I put in the time. I spent 5 years doing it on myself. And that's how I got my memories back. I know not everybody has the time to learn how to do it and do it for themselves, so they could find good, reliable practitioners who do it. And again, some people do it for free. Some people charge for it. It really depends on the practitioner and what their comfort level is with that. And again, I don't believe in overcharging people. Somebody $800 for one session. That's too much.
Yeah.
That's highway robbery, honestly.
My first one was a woman who had been trained by Dolores Cannon, and she charged me $400, and she spent a solid 8 hours with me and recorded it and gave me a copy of the recording as part of it. And I got questions answered, because I went in with a list of 10 questions, and I got the questions answered, and 6 of them I was given the correct answer, and 4 I was told I wasn't ready yet. And over the next 2 years, the answers came without having to be regressed again. The second one I had was free, and it was because the hypnotist wanted me to help do a drawing of him in space. And it triggered Omega programming big time. I had the red, it was like being inside an intestine or a brain that was bleeding. It was all tomato red, and that's all I could see. And he was quite frustrated with me because I couldn't give him what he wanted, but he left me in full Omega programming.
That's wrong. Honestly, wrong.
He sent ETs to correct the situation, and they piddled around for 4 months before they finally said they were done. And so I ended up with a third session with a third hypnotist to remove the Omega programming. And that man did a wonderful job. And now he's dead as of last month. So, I can't even refer people to him.
Well, there's a code of ethics with doing hypnosis, because I do hypnosis, again, on myself and others, and I'll explain the code of ethics. Number 1, when a person comes to you asking for hypnosis, first thing you ask them is, what are you wanting to explore? What memories do you have? What do you want to explore? If the person wants to do the hypnosis, you ask them to write down the questions, specifically what they want to do in the session. So you're not going nilly-willy all over the place of the person having no idea what they need to know about. So there is a set of questions, that's correct. The second thing is, you do no harm. When you're working with a person, I'm always engaged. I see those people's memories and I walk in their head. I don't tap into anything that they don't give me permission. I only tap into the specifics having to do with those questions. I don't go wandering in their brain, rifling through other memories that I'm not allowed to tap in. And I cannot change what I see in the hypnosis. I cannot give them a false memory. If I don't see it, I'm not going to give it to you. I won't validate something that's just physically never there to begin with. I will only validate what I see as your real, natural, God-given memories of what happened to you. That's the only thing I will validate. My code of ethics prevents me from making something up and implanting you with false memories. I don't do that. If you want a yes person to validate something that's never there to begin with, I cannot do that. I won't, because that goes against my code of ethics. So do no harm to a person. And I try to remove the Omega, the dissonance, the scare tactics, the triggers, the booby traps. I try to remove that, and sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not, and the block is still there, and I have to honor that it's too painful to break down right now in whatever amount of time we have in the session. So I asked the person, do you want to do another session and work on this, or do you want to bypass this and go to another memory that's not booby-trapped or triggered? Really depends on the trigger too, because some are more harder to unravel than others. And booby traps, that takes time. So you ask the person, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep spending more time in this session to work on this and remove it now? Figure out what's behind this once it's gone. What are those memories? Or do you want to stop with this because it's too painful and go somewhere else to explore another question? Then come back to this later and break it down, the triggering.
Yeah. My frustration was that from the time that my memories were reactivated in April of 2013 until I had the third regression episode, and that was in October of 2018. That entire time I was dealing with suicide programming. So when I came public, when I talked to people, I was doing all this counseling, I was doing my best to help people, and the whole time I had the suicide programming running through my head. So I don't want this for others. And I think people really need to understand that this can happen if you get those memories back. This was a serious issue for the super soldier community because they would start to get their memories back, they would interact with each other, and then one of them would go batshit and kill himself, his family, anybody that he'd had personal contact with. You know, online was one thing, but if he had real world contact with these people, he just killed them all. There were several of them that did this, and others that they would go to some event and kill a bunch of people, and it was really a serious problem. And SSP is okay. My understanding is that super soldiers were Kruger and Monarch, and SSP is the rest of the factions. But we're all part of the same underlying kidnap humans and use them in space program.
Yes, the SSP makes human monsters. That's what it makes out of us. And those that are triggered and going on a killing spree, that's the monster being activated. That's not the real person. It's the monster.
Oh, I know. But it's still a problem for the both communities.
Yes, it's a problem. I mean, people say, you're so sweet, you're so nice. And I say, you have no idea what the monster is that the program's created, what I'm really capable of. I may seem sweet and I am nice, and that's my human earth life. But what I was trained to do and what I did, I was a monster sometimes.
What I have memories of doing in space and what I have memories of other alters doing on Earth, I'm a monster. I know this. And I'm not okay with it, but I've accepted it as reality.
Same. I was a trained assassin by Nacht, Waffen. I was a trained assassin to go find people, retrieve them, whether alive or dead, didn't matter, clean up the evidence, hide it all under the rug, drag the person and put them on a prison barge ship and lock them away, and that barge ship is cloaked. They'll never retrieve that person. They'll never trace them. They'll never find them. They're gone. Because they deviated from one faction of the SSP into another, or they gave away secrets that were classified, an assassin would be sent out to drag them back, to put them in the barge prison, to mutilate them, to torture them, to interrogate them with as much pain, physical, mental, whatever it was, break them down, get them to talk, tell you everything they know, spill all the beans, spill all the secrets, what they did, where, why, how they betrayed you, then put them into regen tank to physically take away the scars, but the mental scars are still left. They're not mind wiped.
Oh, yeah, you come through it. You come out of regen with the memory of how you got there.
Yeah, exactly.
Get rid of the feelings of things.
feelings, physical torture, all of it remains. You're taught a lesson never to deviate from your program ever again. That's what the assassins drag you in. Sometimes if they can't drag you in, they'll kill you and get rid of you, dispose of the body, make sure your soul does not regenerate elsewhere.
This was they kill you, get rid of the body, make sure you're not regenerated elsewhere. That's what I remember from Nacht, Waffen. I don't remember a barge ship.
There's many of them.
This is either a new thing or something that I just was never exposed to.
It's a well-kept secret because they're like the Star Wars triangular craft, huge planetary barge ships. Some of them are the size of planets, and they don't make prisons on planets because these ships they no trace. There's no prisons on planets. It's all on these barge ships that are cloaked. They're constantly moved, so you can't trace it. You can't track it. The assassins can't be traced, can't be tracked too, because they're perfect killers. They're perfect tracers that eliminate the evidence. They're the cleanup mop-up teams.
Well, in space, all the memories that I have of my service in space, I was either a fighter pilot or a navigator, because those skills were too valuable to the Germans for me to be used for something else. They figured that it was a waste of an asset.
Mm.
Now, I know that I have Earth alters, and I know who they work for, but I'm not going to name names because I don't want to end up dead.
Yeah.
And those people use sex to set up assassinations. And it's not like you talked about with just doing it to them. These are more seduction relationship situations, and then a bloody, brutal murder at the end. And I have recovered some of those memories, and I really wish I didn't. I have flashbacks of killing people, and that particular altar is the best I can say is she's a very sick individual, and you have to hope that she never comes out and takes over my body.
Well, what the Shadow Guard trains is a sex kitten for those kind of seduction scenarios between relationships or set up the sex scenario. They're trained to be, they're SSP agents trained as sex kittens to set you up in that kind of a scenario and then kill you or get in from you. Some of them are assassins, some of them are sex kittens, and they're trained to do that by the Shadow Guard and Nacht, Waffen and Reger as well. It's brutal, but being a sex worker still happens in space. You're just more than just a sex worker. That's just part of your job.
I don't have an issue with sex workers if they're in it by their own free will.
But when you're not, and you're just trained to it, and you're pulled into it, and you're pushed, that's not free will choice. You're trained to do that. You're broken into that. That's what these SSP factions do. But you're also other things that you do on missions. You're the assassin, you're the sex kitten, you're all of the above. That's all in your toolkit of tricks that you can do to lure men or women into whatever you want them to do. They have no idea who and what you are. They're just pawns in the bigger scheme of things to complete your mission, to just step over them and get control. Whatever you have to do to accomplish your mission, that's what you do. I remember being trained with laser swords, with
I remember the laser swords.
Yeah, laser phaser guns, rifles, and I had all of that on my missions as an assassin.
In fact, you remember Hendrix. His story was so fantastic that I was having trouble believing him until he came up with the laser sword. And he described the one that I used in Nacht, Waffen completely. He even got the color right. And I was like, Okay, so he really was there.
Well, they seem like they're light when you're holding them, but they're huge, and they go at the back of your smart suit. There's a cavity at the back of the smart suit that holds it. It's not a sheath. It just goes in smoothly, then you take it out and you use it and you put it back, and it's light as a feather when it's not light. It's the nanotech that's part of it.
Mine was about, the handle was about this long, and it had 2 buttons. And when you poked, when nothing was touched, it was just the handle. You poked the top button to turn it on, and I would get a 1/2 meter long laser sword. Actually more like a
Laser knife?
more like machete or short sword. I'm trying to think of gladius. It's the size of a Roman gladius, but there's no weight to it. It's just a laser, and the lower button would turn it off. And we used those on shipboard combat because if you used a projectile weapon, it would go through the bulkhead and you would end up with an air leak.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I had looks like it's heavy, but it's not. It's light because it's laser tech and it's long. Sometimes I had one, sometimes I would just pull out 2 and go hacking. Just go hacking, get through whatever was in my way, hack it up, then cover up the pieces, hide it all away, clean it up like it never happened. And that's the mission. It's complete and done. Perfect killing machine. The perfect Nacht, Waffen, assassin.
The laser swords would I can't think of the right word. It would like scorch, so there was no blood that came through.
Yeah,
So,
but you still had to clean up the body pieces, the bits and no blood, but you still have to pick up the bits and pieces of whatever is you
cauterize. That's the right word.
Cauterize, yes.
Yeah, it would cauterize it as you cut, so there would be no blood everywhere.
So it doesn't spatter on you or on others.
You don't get blood everywhere. It's just, you're right, the body is there, the bits. And depending on how vicious you got, how many bits you had to haul away. Yeah,
it's the cleanup work after the fact. You have to remove all trace evidence, like you were never there. You got the work done, you clean up whatever mess you made, however you had to kill it or get rid of it. You dissolve whatever. There's technology that dissolves the body. You put some acid on the bits and pieces, it dissolves it. There's nothing left. No trace residue of the toxin. It's acid. It's a specific acid that dissolves the body, leaves no trace of the acid. There's no trace. Because you don't collect all the body parts and bits and take it with you. You have to dissolve it on the spot and it's gone.
Wow.
No blood trace.
The altar that I have, that is the assassin. She leaves the body spurting blood. And everybody else has to clean up after her. And I have no idea how she escapes, because in my memories, she just walks out, usually covered in the guy's blood, and everybody's rushing to the crime and she's just walking away and nobody does anything ever.
My memories are, it's the cleanest kill you make. You dissolve the gore, the body bits and parts. There's no blood. And if there is blood, you dissolve it with the acid as well. Sometimes there's blood, depending on whatever. It's dissolved with the acid and you leave clean, like you were never there. Like you did what you did. And if somebody saw you, you wipe their memories with whatever tech you have on you. It's a little stick, you point it at it, you flash it in their eyes like Men in Black, like the movies, similar to that. Their memories are wiped. If they saw something, it's wiped, and you just walk out of there like nothing ever happened. You're the perfect assassin. You blend in, nobody sees you. Nobody notices what you do. And if they do, you just brainwash them, wipe their memory. I was never here. This never happened. You never saw this. Wiped. And you walk away scot-free. Like you never did anything. That's how it works.
And then we can talk about it, sit here and talk about it coldly and rationally, and people wonder, you know, if you really did this, why aren't you more upset? Because we have programming to do this. We have gone through hell to be able to do this. The fact that we can do this is proving our testimony.
And who says that you're not upset just because you can communicate things in an even-keeled capacity? I mean, the whole point that you're there could be that you're upset, but just because you can do so rationally doesn't take away your disdain for what occurred.
Yeah. Penny, I watch these memories and I'm like, no, 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 no. I wake up screaming. When I first experience them, I usually throw up. I sit here online listening to somebody else while I'm having flashbacks of my own, and I have tears running down my face. And these people are like, well, don't you want to do a video chat? No. You know, don't you want to call me on the phone? No. I don't want anybody to see me like this because I am so emotionally distraught. I do not want to see or be seen at all. And they don't understand that. They also don't understand that with alters, a text document gives me something where I can back up and understand what we've been talking about if I've shifted. Because I really, really don't remember.
And honestly, the people we were in the SSP is not the people we are here on Earth. We know it's not acceptable to kill people, to stalk people, to murder, rape, or something. We understand that all of that is wrong. We don't do that on Earth. What we were then is not what we are now, because we're in different circumstances.
I'm in different alters, but I have to live with the understanding that I could shift into that person on a single code word done over V2K or the telephone or flashed at me on my computer screen. That's all it would take.
And I understand that there's a monster that lives within me that could be triggered by programming as well. I just choose to not be triggered and to avoid situations where that can happen. I mean, I wouldn't easily just go and kill somebody unless I was, you know, somebody was trying to rape me or murder me. Then, yeah, I would do everything that I could to just slaughter that person and get rid of them before they could off me.
Well, actually, this altar has victim programming where that I panic and can't defend myself.
I have the opposite. I have rage programming. Anybody who attacks me and tries to defile me, my programming is to defile them first and get them first, so they cannot do to me what they want to do to me. It's like defend, protect, remove, get rid of. That's the programming I have. Anybody coming at me, attacking me, they're going to get a surprise of their life because I'm going to try, I would off them. Literally, I would go, whatever I have is what I would use to defend myself. That's literally how I am. I don't attack first.
It's frustrating to be sitting here trying to help people and watching them go through the machinations to attack me and know it's coming, and I cannot muster the self-defense to stop it because programming. And I have asked several folks who theoretically should have the information on how to stop it. And I get basically told, well, you can do this yourself. It's your own mind. And I'm like, really? Help at all.
Unless you know how to control your mind not to do that, nobody has taught you the techniques not to be a victim. No,
Yeah.
Not everybody knows how to not be a victim. It's something you learn that's within you. You acknowledge it and you work either with a specialist or on your own. You learn how to not be a victim, not to live in that. I mean,
there are a couple of individuals in my world that I'm really annoyed with right now because of things that they've said. And it has been related to, I know they have the information, and their responses up to this point were supportive and kind and, oh yeah, just ask me anything. But when I asked them for information I actually needed, it was, well, you know how to do this. If I knew, I wouldn't ask.
Yeah, like don't make the assumption that you're a very smart person and you know many things, but we don't know everything and anything. And sometimes we ask for help because we really do want to learn how to get out of victimhood and for somebody else to help us. We ask.
Exactly.
We didn't ask to be told, oh, you can do it yourself. Go learn it. I don't know how. Help me, teach me if you're willing. If you're not, point me to somebody else who can.
Well, I figured that the response I got was saying, leave me alone. And so I have been.
Well, you're very kind.
And when those people find themselves quietly unfriended, they're going to wonder why.
Well, honestly, if you're being given the cold shoulder, why should those people be in your friends list in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to keep, after I was permabanned in 2019, I've been trying to keep this profile tight and clean. And I'm to the point, if they are giving me the cold shoulder and won't answer questions, then why are they there?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a cold world sometimes behind Facebook interactions. You don't see the person, you're just texting, and, things can be misunderstood, misconstrued.
Oh, yeah.
That's happened to me. Like what I'm trying to say or impart is not really what the person is getting because they can't see me. It's just text.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of the feedback that I'm getting from viewers, from counselees, from people in my groups, our groups, I have the distinct impression that I'm not being heard, that people are hearing what they want me to be saying instead of what I actually am. And I'm not sure how to change that.
Yeah, I feel the same about one specific topic, the holographic medical beds or the med beds. On Mars, when I was the cybernetics tech, when I was in that job, I was told that this tech would not roll out on Earth for another 200 to 300 years.
That's my feeling about it. And yet I've got people telling me, oh, it's going to be out next year. And I'm like, no, they're busy actively trying to kill 80% of the population. Why would they roll out med beds?
Exactly. And I get emails, when is this coming? What kind of training can I get to be prepared to use them, to save my relatives, to save myself? I'm like, it's not here. It's not available. I don't have the resources to give it to you or make it. I was just an end user that was never allowed to use them on myself to heal myself. So, and then the person's like, I just think you're lying. You can use the med bed.
Stupid.
You can use the med bed.
That's just an excuse. Did I blurt that out on air?
It's okay. It's okay, Penny. I'm like, didn't you hear what I said? I don't know when they're coming. I don't think they're going to be available anytime on Earth. They're on Mars. Oh, the children, the underground children who are being rescued are put into these med beds and are healed. No, they're not.
Proof that there are any underground children being rescued. If there were, there would be adverts for foster parents, and there are not.
Well, supposedly the rescued children who are rescued from the underground bases and the captivity, they're taken off planet and put somewhere else for their safety.
If they're taken off planet, it's not for their safety.
Yeah, so I'm hearing this all over Facebook, just people posting in love and light groups. The children are being saved. They're being put into the med beds. The future looks beautiful.
How come no one asked them to prove what they say in their testimony?
Yeah, exactly. I ask them for proof. I go, where are these kids? Where? This is 3D physical. This should be provable.
Because it's not like those people are giving their testimony. It'd be one thing if they were saying, I was involved and this is my experience and I'm giving testimony to that. And they're not.
Exactly. They're spreading rumors that are completely unbased, completely not based in reality, and there is no proof for them because they're not true. And in my world, we call that a lie.
Right. Right. I mean, a lot of people can gripe my experience. Like I've submarine service, South Pole State, all that. Like they can say, I don't believe you, but they can't ever take away my experience from me. This is my testimony. I'm showing up to the plate.
I was at Eric's house with my partner for a week, and he has boxes of documents proving beyond any shadow of a doubt that yes, he was in the Navy. Yes, he was on submarines. Yes, he was at the South Pole Station, then run by Raytheon. He has pay stubs. He has W-2s. He has documents. He has a DD-214. The gold standard of the UFO community. He is what he says he is.
So now in all reality, right, with that being said, Penny and Ileana being here, isn't it kind of interesting in the circles that we run around in that not more people are asking to talk to me? Because to me, that speaks volumes of where they come from.
Well,
you got a lot of people that say they've been to the South Pole. I have pictures. There's a lot of people that say that you can't go to these programs. They don't let you take pictures. I get that that's a standard. I get that. I get that that's their standard. But I also have been to multitudes of facilities where they told me I couldn't take pictures. And guess what? I have pictures. So what does that do for all? I mean, I get what other people are saying, but the reality is I've now come out of facilities that I'm not supposed to have taken pictures from, and I have pictures. So now what do we do with all the other people?
Well, I mean, you're on an Earth facility that's run by Earth standards, Earth tech.
No, you're saying that. You weren't there. I was. I have pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm telling everybody else it's wrong.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to see your pictures, Eric.
I've presented them. I've put videos out.
Yeah.
They're already out there. I've been there.
No, I've seen
those
pictures.
Other people make claims, and other people who don't have pictures make accusations about the place that I've gone to, and they undermine my facts with their lack of facts. Well, they go, well, your place was that. Hold on. Where's you? If you were there and you have pictures and you have a criticism, produce your facts. I have facts that say something, and I get criticized by people that don't have any facts.
Then they don't have the facts, because honestly, when I go to interview people, I try to do a bit of research on them, and I saw your certification. You showed it in the SSP group that you were indeed in Antarctica, dates, facts. I didn't need to see your DD4, DD412 or whatever.
DD14, but that's semantics. Yeah, it's total semantics. But now look at all of these people that are out there in the community.
So DD14, right?
DD214.
214.
is the military discharge form. It states what branch you were in and what your main duties were and the length of time you served and sometimes where.
Yeah, I usually, my nickname is DD212. I like to call it that, DD214. But the reason why I call it DD212 is because that document is a private document that you don't just go around showing to anybody as proof. It's shown behind the scenes maybe for whatever you need to validate, verify for government, for whatever, but you don't just show it to the audience today on a show, because that's actual documentation of work. And you're not supposed to show your military DD214 just anywhere. It's like your social insurance number.
That's why I didn't produce it on the internet. That's why I flew Penny to Alaska, because it mattered that much. And
someone had to see it.
And now that I have that documentation out there, I'm intrigued. Where are all the researchers that say they're looking for folks like me?
Mm-hmm.
How come they don't knock on my door?
Richard Dolan, that's his stated gold standard is the DD214.
So
if you don't have one, he won't talk to you unless you have a PhD.
So I thumb my nose at all of these supposed experts that are calling for credentials, that when the credentials present themselves, they ignore them. How come? I suggest that their credentials are less of a value and that they might be COINTELPRO operatives that are getting paid for their opinions. They're gatekeepers themselves. Why don't they want to discuss with people that are available the truth?
Yeah, I mean, Linda Moulton Howe won't give us the time of day, not to me or Penny.
I got photos and video of a year that I spent at the South Pole Station, and the only thing I hear from people is discounting things. They go, oh, well, you're not. Hold on, where's your pictures and video? When were you there? I hear speculations from a lot of people that say they were there.
Were they?
It's a great question. I got pictures and video. I was there. So I can thumb my nose at their lack of facts, but what they can't do is look down on me for my presentation of facts.
Yeah. I have a lot of people who are getting lost in my side story and missing the whole point that I'm calling for the dismantling of the CIA, because they cannot be trusted to act in the best interests of the American people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I share an interesting fact?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
When you are somebody who's a YouTube content creator and you're seeing the stats, you're constantly seeing the stats.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most popular thing that pops up on my stats is videos of SSP that I've done either on my own or interviewed others. Google is telling me to do more of that because that's good content that's popular. Google acquired YouTube 2 years ago. What does that tell us? So this, the SSP stuff, is a form of interesting entertainment disclosure that Google wants us to make more of and promote, because that's popular content. That's top searchable.
I've noticed the last 2 months. Okay, before that, you could put in an SSP search and you wouldn't get anything.
Or we were censored. Remember, we were being censored?
I was being censored. We were all being censored. About 2 months ago, I noticed that when I'm watching one of my own videos, yes, I do, because I have alters and I need to know what I said. Okay. Suddenly, I'm getting this whole strip to the side of suggested videos. And about 5 to 10 of them are me or people I know. And this is an amazing step forward. Now, they also throw in some stuff that's totally out there, like we're insane. But it's like they've put us into a religion category instead of a subversive category.
Well, they've put me in the space entertainment category.
Yeah, space entertainment is basically how they're viewing us. They're not looking at the validity of the content. They're not looking at whether we're telling the truth or not. They are, I think, looking at, do we involve politics? Because the people who involve politics in their videos are the ones that are having their channels shut down.
Yeah, I don't do politics. I don't do those controversial things. Honestly, I don't want to be removed for inappropriateness. I don't want to remove for controversy or drama. I don't want to create that because I don't want the backlash of that coming knocking at my door in emails and threats and other things. No guns, no politics.
You've had some pretty nasty threats. Some of them were over videos we did together.
Yeah, so my rule is no guns, no politics, no religion, and no controversial groups. You know, like we're not going to mention that group.
Starts with an A, ends in an A, that one too.
Starts with a Q, but ends with something else. So starts with a Q and ends with an A. We're not going to mention that group. I don't talk about that because that can get you like booted off so quickly. It's not funny.
There are several things that can get you booted off really fast. And well, I believe those people have the right to speak their opinions. And I don't believe that the government should have the right to shut them down. At the same time, what's happening is these large companies are considered to be private industries and are enforcing their own rules.
Mm-hmm. The corporations.
And if we want access to their platforms, we have to at least appear to comply with their rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I want to be on social media, I get it. I have to behave in a certain responsible manner, which I do. I don't cuss. I don't swear. I try not to do that.
But well, I cuss. but
that's not what
I used to put nudes on my wall, and I don't anymore. It wasn't graphic to be graphic. It was art, and over the centuries, there's been a lot of nude art.
Yeah, I used to be a photographer who tried photographing artistic nudes. It was just something I was studying. It was just a category. I did that kind of photography. I did landscape. I did portrait. I did all of it because that's how you learn to be a good artist and a photographer. You do all the categories.
Yeah. Well, I got into a lot of trouble on one particular social media for posting nude art because I had one real world friend who was reporting it every time I did. So this is why my social media circles are small, is because my friends have proven they cannot be trusted.
Well, I don't post any pictures, almost nothing on my Facebook profile about myself, my own pictures. I have cat pictures. Enjoy.
For Lent, I've been doing a basic class on logic because so much in my feed was so blatantly illogical and so blatantly full of fallacies that even if their starting idea was true, what they were ending up with was completely not. And they couldn't understand, well, if that's true, why isn't this? Because of all the stuff in between.
Well, maybe I'm being misunderstood now because I'm posting ASMR healing massage videos that I like. One channel is called Ecuador Live, the other is Alfredo Uno, and it's basically a healing massage with soft-spoken ASMR and a lot of massage. People are not nude there. It may be misconstrued as whatever. It's not what that content is, but people have their own opinions and ideas, and we cannot control other people. We can only control what we do and what we put out. I like ASMR massage, and that's what I'm interested in now. So that's what I post on my Facebook wall. If you don't like it, don't look at it. If you like it, learn about it because it's interesting.
Yeah, that's something that I've taken up on my YouTube channel, is when people start complaining about my altars popping out, because they do. And they don't understand altars, so they think I have control over this, and I don't. And some of them are getting really nasty. And I finally gotten to the point where it's like, I'm not twisting your arm for you to watch my channel. You don't like how I operate, you don't have to watch it.
I tell people that very quickly in my comments. It seems my channel isn't made for you. You should go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're involved with what I'm doing and they see with what I'm doing, awesome. Well, we're on the same page. If all they have is criticisms for what I'm doing, obviously this is not the page for you. You should leave immediately.
Yeah, well, I get compared to other people, some of whom are researchers.
So what?
And I tell them, well, if you're so fond of so-and-so, go watch their channel.
I think of it like when I was coming up through the plumbing ranks. I mean, I was a plumber. I worked for a particular company. There's other companies out there. People can have criticisms of how you are with the company that you work with, but there's no obligation. Do whatever you want. If you don't like what we're offering, call the other guy. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, all I have to offer the world is what I have to offer. If all people have is criticisms for what I have to offer, there's really not much I can do about that, because I'm not about to change for every criticism that gets fired across my bow.
Yeah, and my channel is experimental. I talk about ETs, I talk about SSP, I talk about healing, I talk about crystals, I talk about tarot, I talk about esoteric spirituality.
Yeah.
Those are the founding pillars of my YouTube channel from the get-go. I never promised to just speak about SSP and ETs. That might be the bulk of my content, but it's not my only content. I will post videos about all of those things that I mentioned and other things. I'm not going to limit my channel to just SSP and ETs.
Well, my channel started off as a place to store a playlist of my interviews, and I was just linking from the interviewers because they were mostly monetized and I didn't want to steal the money from them. So I was just collecting them into a playlist, and YouTube decided that I had to upload content or lose my channel. And so I started interviewing my friends with the idea that I was going to document the greater community. The greater community being UFO experiencers, including the Inuna community that interacts with real Anunnaki extraterrestrials, the super soldier community, who are mostly Kruger and Monarch veterans, and they are generally very militaristic in their viewpoints. So it's like Vietnam vets on steroids. And also the SSP people and any scientists related to our field. So mine does have a defined territory. And I've basically everything that I've done, including my current radio show, I've archived it there. And yeah, I'm about a month behind on uploading the shows. So I'm treating it as a place to store my stuff and document the community. And I mean, this is going to sound bad, but my criteria are that you're pleasant to me, you can carry a thought in a bucket, and that you can discuss your experiences without reverting to religion or politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that should be, that should be everybody.
Yeah, I want to hear a genuine, true story. I don't want to hear repetitive things. Oh, I've heard about those people's experiences. I've read about. I want your story, who you are, what you have to share, your honesty, your intelligence. I don't want to hear something rehearsed, something practiced, something created out of thin air. What you got is what you got, even if it's fragmented memories. I want to know about it. Just come on.
I don't want to hear a total stranger sit there and tell me all about Randy Kramer. I know Randy Kramer.
Yeah.
I like Randy Kramer. He's welcome at my house.
He's welcome on my show.
You know, I've asked him on my show and he says, yeah, but he never sets a date. So, I love the man. But you're not Randy Kramer. You shouldn't be telling his story.
Just tell your own story, how it is, what you've done, what you've experienced. I mean, honestly, I invited Eric because I've never heard a genuine story about somebody working as a plumber in Antarctica. That was interesting and special and unique. What does a plumber from Alaska do in Antarctica? Tell me your story. It's uniquely special because I don't really know anybody else who's a plumber and who's been to Antarctica.
Yeah, that whole angle of he's a plumber and doing this stuff is like, oh my God, that's a totally different point of view and completely valid. It's when you think about it, all of the diseases that mankind was plagued with for so many millennia went away when we had modern plumbing.
Better than a vaccine, modern plumbing.
Clean water. You can wash yourself.
Bring in clean water, get rid of waste. That is the staple of society.
Exactly. Without that, you're sick all the time. Or you spend.
If everybody in the world was a doctor, if you had no plumbers, it wouldn't matter. You'd all be dead.
Yeah.
Your sewage is clogged up. Who do you call? A plumber. Your toilet is clogged up. Who do you call? A plumber.
You know why hospitals can fix everybody? Because of the amount of plumbing in the building. If you got rid of the plumbing, the doctors couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It would just be a big building with people dying in it from disease, and the doctors would be going, how come everybody's dying? And it would be like the hospitals of old that were full of doctors and crappy plumbing. Well, and until they got good plumbing, hospitals were death traps.
And you had to use the porta potty and the outhouse. Mm-hmm. Like, in those old-fashioned castles. Mm-hmm. Guess what?
My grandmother had a outhouse.
Or a bucket in a room where you go and then you have to take the bucket out.
Chair with a hole. I've seen them.
Yeah, castles.
Well, castles had a hole in the floor and it just went through into the moat. Then everybody has to smell all this.
Or it was just the bucket in the room. If they didn't want the moat, and you had to take out the bucket in every room that was designed for that.
Chamber pot.
Yes, chamber pot. Yeah. And so, modern plumbing. Thank Eric for it.
Well, we had them in the South Pole in the summer camp. We had pecans because people didn't want to walk out to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And since it was so cold on the floor, the pecan would just freeze technically. So it didn't get stinky. But it is what it is.
Yeah, but you know,
It's either that or walk out into minus 50 degrees into blinding laser light in the middle of the night because the sun doesn't go down. So those are your options. Choose your lesser
yeah,
evil.
well, I would much rather listen to the plumbing of a ship or the plumbing in a Antarctic base than I would to 50 million shoot 'em ups that sound made up.
Yep. I had one thing that I wanted to throw in here because I know we're hitting the 2-hour mark here, so I don't want to keep you ladies here forever. But one of the things that I did want to key in on, which is part of what I'm doing here, and I think Ileana will hopefully recall this from our initial conversation. My first conversation a year ago was slightly pointed. And this is a
You've had several that have been more than slightly pointed.
I have some tactics in me. And when I spoke to Ileana a year ago, there was something that we spoke about at the very end of our conversation. And we're doing this again today because I want to really reinforce how our world works. One of the last things Ileana and I discussed on her show a year ago was ELF at the South Pole Station. He had brought it up.
Yeah, I was like a dog with a bone on you in those texts about it, and you were reticent. You didn't want to talk about it on the show. And I said, ELF is not classified, Eric. It's public. It's available to read about, talk about it, because it's an interesting technology that submarines use.
Absolutely.
And they use them as also antennas in the North Pole and in Antarctica.
All true statements. They are.
Because I researched, what the heck is that? I didn't know what that was. You mentioned the term ELN, right?
ELF.
ELF.
Yep, extra low frequency.
ELF. You mentioned that. I'm like, that has to do with submarines and submarine communication. Because I'd heard about it somewhere.
Very complex technology that could theoretically do many more dastardly things.
Oh,
so
yeah.
A year ago, when you brought that question to me, I was reticent to answer it because I would say that I was a little bit more in the know to the potentials. And now, a year later, I would like everybody to educate themselves on what ELF can do and ask, did we not just go through a year worth of ELF weapon exposure? When we look at all of the possible things that people say ELF could do. If a year ago I said, hey, folks, get ready. You're about to get screwed by ELF. Everyone would have said I was crazy.
Does it amplify 5G technology?
It does a million things. It makes people angry at each other. It can cause all kinds of mental impacts. Let's just put it that way. So when you are looking around at your friends, family, neighbors, and all the people for the last year, and you say, you know, they're really not acting like themselves. ELF. This is the science behind this stuff, that there are machines that can be used to promote a mindset or remove a mindset. And I would say over the course of the last year, I think that there are other Americans, other patriots, other good intentioned people that I would say were acting out of their minds.
Yeah, or it's ELF, or it's being cooped up at your house and not being able to go anywhere because of a certain thing that's happening in the world right now.
Or those are two components being used together in conjunction.
Yeah, because ELF is bad on its own, but when you make somebody sit at home constantly and not see the light of day, that's another thing that...
All battlefield tactics.
Yeah, that really screws your mind. Makes you wonder, what the heck am I doing here? Tapping away at this keyboard.
Or a rifle, or a tank, or you use everything. So ELF is just a very unknown weapon in the arsenal of mind control and mass control. It's on the list of possibilities. Yes, it can communicate with the submarine, but there's other things that it can do. And it's also just a cog in a machine when you say that we have ELF that can do this, and we have HARP that can do this. And when we start putting things together, there are questions to be asked I certainly don't have all of the answers, but I suggest that people start looking into these things because, as we've heard time and time again, everybody goes, well, if people knew, if this was going on, somebody would have said something.
Why?
What?
Why
I've
mention
said
it?
something, folks. I've told you that the ELF is on at the South Pole Station. I'm not going to suggest to you how much that could negatively impact your life because guess what? I've learned that me breathing out my words into the world is less effective than people doing the research on their own. So look at what
Yep.
ELF can do. I said it a year ago. I'm saying it again today for a reason.
Well, I was hounding you about it. I was almost forcing you to say it out loud. And there's reasons why I do that. It might not seem
Oh, I get it.
logical, plausible at the time, but I'm like a hound on a scent. Once I pick up a scent, it's hard for me to let it go.
Oh, I get that 100. I'm not
I have a
knocking your direction
question.
for inquiry, but what I'm getting at is just that I was calculated in as so far as that I'm not a knucklehead. I'm not going to come out of the gates on my first interview and start divulging stuff that's going to have me never get my second video put out.
But I was going to.
I got a question.
Go for it.
Your ELF at the South Pole that's turned on,
Mhm.
will that have an effect on the Schumann's resonance?
It can. It depends on how they want to use it. It's a passive device or an active device. If they want to listen, they can listen. It's a
Because
standard
I've
antenna array.
been
If you want to listen with an antenna,
noticing,
you can listen. If you want to apply power to it, you can transmit. So now when you start studying what an ELF antenna and transmitter array can do, it really boils down to that specific unit, how big of it, how much power is it putting out, what frequencies are you operating on. But all of these things, I can't say that it can't do those things. All I can say is that understanding the technology, that the sky is the limit and all possibility exists always. And if the potential exists for something terrible to be done with it, I would say that we should look into it because time and time again, we have seen that when terrible things exist and we look at the people that have the control of these terrible things, we just simply ask, are you using it and why? And then we find out they are using it and the reasons aren't that good.
Yeah, it's like.
well, I was asking because a small group of my non-SSP friends have been following the Schumann's resonance and have found a repeating pattern to the spikes.
I would
And
suggest that there are a multitude of things that could engage the Schumann resonance to mess with it.
But what's interesting is 2019, MIT sent a laser thought into somebody else's brain for 1 minute. They transmitted what they wanted the other person to hear. And it was without any radio, it was without any frequency, it was just a laser beam that was shot directly into the person's brain. And it's voice of God technology that can be done on Earth. There's millions of people out there who are called targeted individuals, where they hear voices that are not their own, telling them to do god-awful things or making them sick.
well, V2K is carried over the Wi-Fi. So anywhere you have a Wi-Fi signal, you can be subjected to V2K. And that's why I wear an EMF blocker cap. So that I'm not subjected to V2K. That has been the bane of my existence from the time it was first rolled out in approximately 1980 until I got the cap in 2016. And when I have it on, I don't hear the shit. And for me, that's what it was. It was a constant repeat of, you're ugly, you're fat, you have no quality of life, nobody likes you, nobody ever will like you, you might as well kill yourself. You add that on top of Omega programming, and y'all are lucky I'm still here.
Well, I mean, I never hear voices from Y2K. I constantly hear ETs wanting to talk or people wanting to talk psychically. or my higher self wanting to say something to me and I filter it. When I'm sleeping, no talking. None psychic talking. When I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping. Leave me alone.
Well, I still hear all of that stuff with the cap on. It just stops the V2K.
Yeah, I've never been, I think you are a targeted individual with that technology. I'm not. It's just my brain doesn't pick up on the wish wash of Y2K. It just blocks it all out. Thankfully, some people can block it, some can't, and they're targeted individuals because of that.
Yeah, well, I've gotten to where I don't trust any channelers that are not wearing an EMF blocker cap, because so many of them tell me that they can tell the difference, and yet they're spewing obvious PSYOP information.
Okay, I'm a channeler, but I'm not going to go against that because that's true. You never know what frequency or what message you're picking up.
Yeah.
You have to be able to discern the message.
I believe that they're telling what they're hearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm not trusting their source.
Yeah,
Right.
they're just passing on what comes through to the being who you allow to come in through you as a channel.
They are regurgitating similar to someone watching the mainstream news at night and regurgitating at you. It's like you don't need that noise either.
Well, to some people it has meaning, to some people it's truth or fact of life. Depends on how good the channeler is as well, because the channeling really depends on how good you are and what comes in through you.
It's the same thing as like watching, it's the same thing as communicating with your friend who just watched the news. Some people are good at assessing what they saw, and some people have no idea and they just spew whatever junk comes in their head.
Yeah, that's why I don't do public channeling on videos, because that's a private thing that I don't just wipe out at the blink of an eye. I see channeling as something that is to be used very specifically in certain circumstances, situations, and I prefer intuitive channeling more so than somebody's dead mother.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I trust my intuitive channeling more so than.
I'm not sure I trust the beings that talk to me when I have the cap on and I get to see them. They still may not be who they say they are, but at least the voice is going with the face I'm seeing. So, but we all know that those can be cover memories too.
Yep, or the beings are masquerading as good when they're evil. So it's,
or vice versa.
Oh yeah, or evil masquerading as good. It's so there's archangels, there's demons, there's entities, there's archons, there's fairies, there's werewolves, there's shapeshifters, multidimensional ETs, interdimensional ETs, energetic ETs. There's so many different spectrums of beings that are alive. It's not funny, that can contact you and talk to you. Or there's the dead people that talk to you. Anything can come in.
Exactly. And adding the CIA's V2K to the list is at least something I can block them.
Or the AI signal. Many civilizations have AI that's sentient, and it reaches out through its own signal and tries to talk to us. There's also that factor too in here. It's huge.
Just because you're hearing somebody doesn't mean it's somebody you really need to be listening to.
Yeah.
They're telling the truth.
Yeah, and if it tells you to do horrible things to yourself or to kill yourself, that's or others, that's not a good being. That's nothing positive. Or giving you bad advice to gamble or drink. It's horrible. No. You know, anything that has to do with addiction, vices, and bad advice, if you're hearing those voices, that's something that's trying to manipulate you and ruin you or kill you. So don't listen to it.
I will be linking both of your YouTube channels to this page, just so that you know in the comments. If you guys
Thank
could
you.
do the same for me, would be really
Yes.
appreciated. But short of that, if there's anything else that you guys have coming up, if you would like to let the listeners know any way they could find you, or any events that you have coming up.
I'm going to be at a conference March 19th through the 21st in Las Vegas, Nevada, for those out of country. And you can find the group online at 5devents.com.
Excellent. And how about you, Ileana?
I'm doing energy healing. I'm doing psychic sessions, galactic soul reading sessions. I'm also teaching a new course on how to contact and talk to your higher self and how to communicate with the soul. Those are two different courses, and how to do soul mediation between yourself and others. That's the first part of my psychic development courses. Those two courses, that's on my website, and my other healings, offerings. It's on the website, Messages from a Star Traveler. It's not the Facebook group, it's the website where you can contact me. You just type in Messages from a Star Traveler, go to the website, not the Facebook group. Or you can contact me at seekingthetruithinreality@gmail.com. That's the email if you have any questions, inquiries, where to reach me. So that's kind of what I'm excited about.
Excellent.
More the psychic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, there you go, folks. If you guys would like to work with Ileana and what she's doing, you can find her there. And then same thing with Penny. For myself, I have the MeWe page, I have the YouTube page, and now recently I do have my website up. So deciphering.tv is up and running in its fledgling stages. But there is content there, folks. There's the archive section where you can get some fascinating facts from PDFs and things like that, and a couple of articles I put up there. But I'll be going live from there soon, and YouTube will not be the only place that you will be finding me. That is it's a sinking ship, folks. So the future is in truth and other organizations, and we'll find a path. And I thank folks like Penny and Ileana for joining me today and being on that path towards a brighter future. So if everybody can please like, subscribe, share, ring the bell for both my page, Penny's page, and Ileana's page, and basically anybody in the community right now that you support in the truth movement, please take an active part in supporting them. Don't just watch their videos. Move the videos around. Take an active role in the world that you're in. Every single time that you see a video by any content creator, if you have an appreciation for it, do something about it. You know, take an active part in the world around you, folks, is basically where I'm going to try to impress people to do things in 2021, is that right thought to me means very little if it's not followed by right action.
Penny, what's your YouTube channel?
Nacht Waffen Pilot. NACHTWAFFEN. And then pilot.
Pilot. Cool. Mine is Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, and I produce all my own content where I do my own podcasts. I interview other people as well. So I have guests on my show, and I have stuff that I put out for my own presentations and podcasts. Yep. Like Eric said, if you like something, share, subscribe, add to playlists, share it with others, links, whatever you feel good about or comfortable doing. Social media is about bringing awareness, knowledge, and disclosure. And that's what we're here to do. Yep,
exactly.
My radio show and my TV show are both called Nacht Waffen Pilot. The radio show is on Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com on Saturdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific. And I have guests on it. The TV show is more me talking to the camera. At least at this point, I'm filling in a lot of the background so that when someone comes into our community brand new, I'm giving what's where and why we're weird. And I had a writer's block about altars. I didn't know how to approach that to the raw public. So I'm working on my second episode for that, for altars. So I have 3 episodes so far. And if you do not have Roku, then I'm making them available on my Patreon for the minimum charge. So
there you go.
Roku costs money. So.
Yeah. And my channel is, I post things for free. People can watch. I don't put things behind paid walls and charge a fee to watch something. I believe in, most channels are monetized, that's true, but you can still watch things for free and enjoy. So I am going to keep my channel open, and I'm not going to put things behind paid walls. I just don't believe in that. So, you know, just what you resonate with. If you want to watch, you watch. If you don't, that's fine. You don't. It's all free will and choice here, and we're here to disclose.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, disclosure is our mission, and I'm glad that both of you were able to join me a year ago and also today. And Ileana, we don't have to wait another year for this. Just so that you know, I know you're a very busy person and you have a lot of folks on. That was just a joke. I'm just teasing.
Oh, anytime.
But if we have to wait a year, I'll wait another year.
No. Anytime you want, just contact me. We'll throw out a few dates and get together and do a show.
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, I'm learning stuff all the time, so it's always fun to just, you know, touch base and find out what's going on.
Exactly, because we're all friends. We're all in this community. And we're all here to share things and talk about honestly about what's going on with us. It is what it is, and you see what you see.
That's the way I look at it. We're just sharing. That's all it really is. It's like, it's no different than if I look at it like as if we were just neighbors, if we lived near each other, right? If Penny lived on one side of my house and Ileana lived on another side of my house, at the end of the day, at some point in time, we'd just be hanging out and BSing with each other and going over stuff. Now we're just doing it at distance. That's all.
Yeah, but we're not at a distance. We're seeing each other. We're interacting. We're sharing thoughts. Mm-hmm. So I'm very grateful for this type of technology where we can hop on and talk honestly and communicate. It's better than a cell phone.
Yep. Excellent. Well, I really appreciate the chat today, ladies. I look forward to the next time that we talk, and I really appreciate all of the listeners that tuned in today to follow along. I look forward to seeing all the comments and questions, and I look forward to having this conversation again in the future. So thank you very much for everybody that came here today. Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Ileana, and I look forward to chatting in the future.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.